Now, moving on, efforts to regularize the National Government Constituency Development Fund have begun in earnest, with two members of parliament proposing to entrench the fund in the constitution. In the proposal, Matungulu Member of Parliament Stephen Mule and his Gichugu counterpart Robert Gishimu want the National Government Affirmative Fund and the Senate Oversight Fund be included in the constitution. Reader Kering Chebet followed that up and brings us this report.
Lawmakers are now mulling the reinforcement of the National Constituency Development Fund (NGCDF) by amending the constitution to entrench the fund into law. The bill, co-sponsored by Matungulu Member of Parliament Stephen Mule and his Gichungu counterpart Robert Gichumu, is pushing for the fund to be established in the constitution to avert disruptions on the technicalities of the law. In the Constitution Amendment Bill 2022, the MPs are also seeking to establish the National Government Affirmative Fund, Senate Oversight Fund, and Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund in the Constitution. The bill seeks to increase the allocation of the National Constituency Development Fund to 5% from the current 2.5% by amending the NGCDF Act of 2015. The bill also calls for the establishment of the Senate Oversight Fund, which seeks an allocation of 0.001% of all the national government share of revenue as divided in the Division of Revenue Act. The lawmakers argue that the bill does not in any way affect the function and powers of the county governments in anticipation of any efforts to thwart the bill. The amendment bill wants Parliament to enact the legislation to make provision for the operation of the Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund, whose objective will be to empower women, men, youth and persons living with disabilities. According to Mule, the bill has received goodwill from members as so far he has collected 335 signatures in support of the changes in the legislation. Rarieda MP Otiende Amolo opined that the National Constituency Development Fund has ruled unconstitutional not because of its utility but legality, which can be cured through the amendment of the Constitution. This quest comes days after President William Ruto asked MPs to take measures to protect the 44.3 billion shillings Constituency Development Fund and establish an oversight kitty for senators to oversight cash transfers to counties. Ruto told Parliament to align the National Government Constituency Development Fund to the requirements of the Constitution in order to save the kitty. The National Treasury had announced it will not allocate monies to the NGCDF following the Supreme Court's judgment that declared it unconstitutional. A bench of 5 judges led by Chief Justice Martha Koome last month ruled that the Cdf Act 2013 violates the principle of separation of powers, hence it is unconstitutional. While overturning the Court of Appeal decision that held the CDF to be legal, the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional for the national government to extend its mandate to counties. The court held that the CDF Act 2013 offends the division of functions between the national and county governments. For Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Reader Chebet Kering.